Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the teaching of the inner Christ. I am Reverend Elaine Fuller-Zaki, and I am your leader for today. So let's start in with our meditation song. It's We Are One on page 28 of the Little Gray Songbook. We are one with each other as we share the love of Christ within. We open our hearts and our minds to receive. We are open, ready, willing, accepting, receiving our breakthrough. And we are one. So let's go into our initial meditation. We can take a deep breath of love and out. We close our eyes and we call on that inner spiritual reality which we all are, and that we may call the inner Christ. So dear inner Christ, to guide us during this meditation, to realize our perfect compassion, our perfect oneness, our perfect spirituality, and to unify with this, as this. We thank our dear inner spirit, our dear inner Christ. And we take a deep breath of love, move around a little and open our eyes, and again, here we are. Good morning again.
Good morning.
An important part of the teaching of the inner Christ is prayer. And we teach what we call scientific prayer because it works. And everyone has a little prayer paper, right? If you do not have a little prayer paper, a little prayer card, please raise your hand and the usher can bring you one now. During the service, we're going to focus on what we want to say as a prayer, and we'll do it later on. You may write it if you wish, or just hold it in your heart, and we'll do the prayer together later on. I'll lead you. And if you desire, you may put the prayer into our prayer box, where professional licensed prayer therapists will pray on it for 2 weeks. Your job is to do the prayer at home and to let us know before the 2 weeks is out what's going on. Maybe you want us to change the prayer. Maybe everything is manifested for you. Maybe you want us to continue for another 2 weeks. The prayer box is over there on the table next to the light and by the door that goes into the community room. And prayer. What about prayer demonstrations? Do you have prayer demonstrations to share with us? Yes, Kathy?
I had an amazing one. I have a roommate, and we live in a 3-bedroom home, but we only use 2 of them. And our rent was supposed to increase by $600. And we could either pay that ourselves or find a roommate to go in the 3rd bedroom. So we opted to go that route, and I put it on Craigslist on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and by the next day we had 42 inquiries.
Wow.
And the first person we made an appointment with was the person who resonated with us. It was perfect fit, and we did take a couple other applications, but we all, along with the landlord, decided on the first person. And she's just a wonderful match. She's Brazilian and closer to our age, and I'm so very grateful. And she's coming on October 1st when we had wanted someone to come.
Wow.
So,
How exciting. Thank you. Wonderful job. And we can pray for things that to us are big or small, because there is no big or small in God. God is perfection everywhere now. And so prayer works. Are there other manifestations to share at this time? Well, we know that manifestations are coming about, and they will come about at the perfect right time. So let's have our group song. This is Peace on Earth on page 1. Page 1 in our little gray book. Let's stand and energize and sing this. In peace and harmony, we can go on. Center events. Next Sunday, the 25th, is our all-music service. And this is a special service that we usually have every year. So I invite you to attend next Sunday, attend our all-music service. And also, it's a potluck Sunday. So bring something that you especially like, something easy to fix, and share with everyone here. So I invite you next Sunday. It's an important and wonderful Sunday. And let me see, there's an online class that's going on. It's Inner Sensitivity. That is our basic course, our first course. It's where we get familiar with the teaching of the inner Christ. It's where we make that inner Christ contact and we realize the spiritual identity of ourselves. So tomorrow is the last day to sign up for this class and join this class. It is taught 3 o'clock, and that's 3 o'clock out here, 6 p.m. on Eastern Time. It's taught by Reverend Marianne Kelly and leader teacher, Inner Christ Counselor, Lenora Withrow. And it's a beautiful class. Oh, and also, please check your cell phones, because we don't want our friends trying to talk to us during the service, and make sure they're turned off or on to vibrate. And the teaching of the inner Christ is a spiritual organization. We teach that each of us is a spiritual being and that we can communicate with that inner reality, that inner Christ. And we teach scientific prayer. And we welcome everybody to listen. So let's have some music right now, performed by Ann Del Amo.
Okay.
It will be God Danced.
Danced. All right. This one, I got the idea for this. My mom and I were waiting in this huge line to get into the county fair. And a car in front of us had a bumper sticker on it, and it said that God danced on the day that you were born. And I thought, how cool is that? So I will prepare my band here. There was nothing but empty space. It was decided there's gotta be a change. Nobody liked it. Sometimes even the angels get strange. It was so boring with all that empty space. God danced all day. God danced. God sang all night. No, we can't remain the same anymore. Oh, what are we all here waiting for? Let's make the change. And so they spun up the universe and the stars and the planets and the moons. And then the creatures evolved. And it didn't stop. Things kept changing and changing and changing until there was more and more and more. And there was never enough. Enough to go around. And they were happy. And they sang and they danced, and the universe trembled with their dancing and vibrated with their singing. Oh, what were we waiting for? It's so much fun, let's go do more and more. So God danced on the day that you were born. God danced on the day that you were born. Thank you very much.
Well, is that happy or what?
Yes.
Yay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And I have a reading today. It is from Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, and Lao Tzu, The Parallel Sayings, put together by Richard Hooper. And so I read from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita. Yes, Bhagavad Gita. Practice gentleness, seek truth, give up anger, do not slander, and have compassion for all beings. Be gentle, be modest, be useful to others. All these things belong to the one who wishes to see me. And I read from Doctrinal Formulas in Buddhism. Seeing himself in others, the one who is in a state of higher consciousness feels compassion for all beings and holds only positive thoughts about them. And are these not words of truth and wisdom? Compassion. Today's talk. The title is Changing Your Outlook with Compassion. And our speaker, Reverend Hammons, Reverend Arthur Hammons, is a special guest. He is a one-of-a-kind. He has a one-of-a-kind philosophy that has the right combination of wisdom, insights, ideas, and passion that are practical and can be implemented immediately. So, let's welcome, with joy, Reverend Arthur Hammons.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here, and one of my prayers this morning was that I would go on and on, because you know I will, and that as I do, God will inspire your heart and mind with a still small voice that shouts a message that's just for you. And it doesn't come from me, it comes from your higher self. And so listen, you can listen to me if you want, but listen to this, for this call of spirit. As I was invited to speak, and I love being here, it's really a privilege to be here, and I'm grateful. We were talking about the idea being for the month of change and your outlook, and one of the things that I know that will help you improve your outlook, what you're seeing in your life, and help you make phenomenal changes, which are necessary for all of us. Life is constantly changing, and we must be up with that change at all times. And then the only thing that stays the same is this consistent love of spirit that we can be guaranteed will support us. That'll always be the same, and always inviting change so that we can turn over new leaves and rise to new levels and experience freshness. And when we are fresh and alive and on the go like we can be, this gives us the appearance of energy, and energy is associated with youth. And so we don't need to be younger, but we can all be more, it's not really possible for any of us to become younger, but it's possible for all of us to have more energy. And the more energetic we are, then and change the thoughts and the thinking that make us old and tie us to the past. The more energetic we are, then the healthier and the younger and the more lively we appear to be. So it's good to be energetic. So when someone asks you, how are you doing, you're saying, oh, I'm just so energetic, I don't know what to do. And they'll go, oh, wow. But I do believe that you can change your outlook, the way you see the world, by being more compassionate. So I wanted to do a little mini course on compassion. Now get ready, because we're going to have a lot of fun with this. I'm going to tell you about how I know that, how I've earned the right to be able to speak about this with authority. I'm going to tell you some cute little stories. I think they're cute little stories about compassion. And then I'm going to tell you Jesus' story about compassion. Then we're going to find, I found somebody that you probably need to exercise compassion about. And all of us will be at the same level with this. But first of all, let's define compassion. I want to get this right. Compassion is the care and concern for the suffering or misfortune of another. It is understanding and it is empathy. And when you have compassion, you do yourself a favor and a service by creating a window of opportunity to serve. Now, being a servant is really great. And I know about this because I was a servant. I've served as a minister and also as a waiter. I had a job in the nicest, most fanciest restaurant in Kansas City, Missouri. And as I served, and the guests in the restaurant were the boss, and I was the servant, I received income for my service. And as a minister, I received income for my service. And it was always my policy to do everything on a love offering, so that I didn't have a fee schedule or a charge. And I felt that I always received more income than if I had put a price on my service. So I'm still a servant. I open doors for people everywhere. I do what I think is to serve the light. And then by being of service, when you are of service, then you receive and you put yourself in a position of receptivity. But if you aren't serving and you're demanding, then the flow can't flow to you, because your demand isolates what you could have and what you could enjoy, because you're leaving out the service. So you do yourself a favor and a service by creating a window of opportunity to be of service. And who are you serving? You are serving your higher self. You are serving the light. And when you do this, then the light rejoices in your attitude of giving and compensates you more than you would normally get just by equal cause and effect living. So I think it's a good idea to see yourself as a servant. I serve the light. I serve a higher purpose and a higher principle. Now then, the origin of the word compassion is found in the Old French, and it originally meant ecclesiastical and saintly. And this meant that ministers were supposed to be compassionate, loving, understanding, had care and concern for the suffering and misfortune of others. But this was just for the clergy and the priestly, because average people said, I'm too busy to be nice. Let them be nice. That's their job. They get to live at the church and they get to wear the robes and everything. Let them be priestly and saintly, and let them experience compassion. But the real meaning is to be understanding, forgiving, and open-hearted. Open-hearted. The opposite of compassion, we need to know this so that when I ask you to be compassionate, you know what you're doing. The opposite of compassion is hard-hearted, unwavering, opinionated, cruel, heartless, uncaring. So you want to be the opposite of those qualities at all times to all people. And then someone, it's a legitimate at this point in our morning for you to say, well, almost all people, but I've got some on my list. Well, we want to eliminate your list today, because that's what's making you toxic, your list. So, and then, well, one of the things that happens when we think of someone that we don't care for, we can't care for them because we don't understand them. We're not walking in their moccasins. And because we don't understand them, we just can't see how being compassionate to them is going to help us. And we do a big thing that does not serve us, and it's called personalization, where we personalize someone's bad behavior. Somebody may be rude, or somebody may, I open doors at supermarkets. I love to do it. And then you talk to people, and it's in knowing people and caring for people, being nice to each other, that we have a safe, happy, joyous, wonderful, everybody loves everybody world. And when you're back and you're not playing out with all the other kids, then that doesn't build what we need to build. And I don't know this, but I have a strong feeling that the people that do bad things don't get enough hugs, don't get enough love, haven't been raised in an environment where they were valued. And then who knows, by being nice to somebody and being kind and considerate, having compassion, might just change the way they feel for the moment, when they were on their way to do something bad, or when they were really hurting because nobody likes them. So, but if you personalize somebody's bad behavior, like I like to open doors for people and say hi and all this, not no long conversations or anything, just good morning or whatever. If somebody just goes by and they don't open the door for me, I don't personalize it like, well, did you see how rude they were? No, they were in a hurry. They probably were out of formula at home. That's why they were in their bathrobe in the first place. But, as they dash by, personalization will get you in trouble. So it's best to not personalize. They must just be having a bad day. They just must not know what they're missing by not being thoughtful and caring for others, or here's your basket, or here I'm finished with this, or I'm going in or out, or whatever. So personalization involves the ego, and we need to put that aside, because having an ego and a score pad narrows us and makes us narrow, and we want to be universally wide open and receptive. And personalization does not let our spiritual self rise and shine and be open. Personalization closes. So when someone is doing what they do, the best thing to do is bless them on their way. I'm amazed at the number of people that drive very fast down the freeway and that get right up behind you. I think maybe they wanted to see what the license plate is or something. And the best thing that I can do is pull over, indicate, look over my shoulder, and get out of their way, and then bless them on the way. Now, before I learned this, I felt that it was my position to maintain the speed and keep them where they belong. But that's not true. I need to get them be out of their way and let them go, and not personalize like they're doing this to me, and bless them, surround them with a bubble of light and protection for all the other people they're going to come right up against, and all that, just to bless them on their way. Compassion is the oxidant to detox your soul. And when you understand the lack of understanding, then you can be more compassionate. Now, here's how I know what I'm talking about. Some time ago, maybe 20 years ago, I was having dinner in a restaurant that was downtown on the street level. It had bushes and plants in a little flower bed on the way in. And while I was having dinner, there was something that caught my eye outside the window that went from the floor to the ceiling. And out of the bushes came a woman who had her clothes on, and she had little plastic bags. And she put the bags down, she took off her clothes. The windows were tinted and she couldn't see in, but everyone could see out. And then she put on the clothes, the warmer nighttime clothes that were rags and old clothes. She put that on and put her other clothes in the bag and put them back in the bushes and went off to do whatever she was going to do at night in living on the street. And this is my first close encounter with someone whose residence was the street. And I was just kind of surprised. And then I noticed there were more of these kinds of people everywhere I went. I got on an elevator one time, walked through a lobby that was empty when I walked through it, pushed my button, and by the time the doors were ready to close, all these people like that got on the elevator. And then I had an aerobics class, and I did it one evening, and this was in Hillcrest, and I did the aerobics class, and it was at Christmas time, and someone had made me some Christmas cookies, and I was going to have a cookie for my supper after class. So I came back from the aerobics class, all energized and perspiring and all that, and there, sitting in my car, eating my Christmas cookies, was a homeless person because I hadn't locked my car. So I didn't know which cookies this person had touched, so I just gave all of them to him and urged him to be on his way. And that was the night I learned to lock my car and to help others be good. So, and they all, you take your value and you learn your lessons. So then I realized that I was not having fun when I looked at any of these kinds of people, stereotypically these kinds of people. And I realized that I was aware of what I was feeling, that I was not feeling good towards them, and this was not making me feel good about the way I was behaving and the choices I could make and how I see things. And I was kind of cruel and judgmental and unloving. And I thought, wow, I just can't believe I would do anything like that. I mean, it's Arthur, really. And so I said, God, this is a flaw that is causing me problems. I don't like this. I'm not happy about myself. I don't want to do this. So there's something I'm missing, and I don't know what it is. So you, God, you show me what I need to see, and then that'll give you something to do. So, and I left it that, knowing that when it was time, I would have what I needed. I would learn what I needed to know, and I would detox my spirit from this bad habit, this groove I was in. So then the Sunday morning, at the church I developed in Elkhorn, I gave the Sunday morning lesson. Yeah, and as usual, I was stunning and brilliant and wonderful, inspiring and all. I think I probably talked about humility. And when it was over, there was a very nice woman who had been coming to church for months, and she looked just really good, had a lovely woman, beautifully dressed on. And she said, "Oh, Reverend Hammons, your message this morning was great." She said, "That's just exactly what my men's group needs to hear. Could you come and speak to them next Thursday morning? We meet at the El Cortez Hotel, and it's at 6:30 in the morning." I said, "Okay, yes, I'd love to." So, and in the meantime, I'm thinking, the El Cortez, wow, that's a beautiful place. It's on a hill. And it's a tall building, but being on the hill overlooking San Diego, it looked even taller. And it had these big neon stars on the outside that were on the other side of a glass elevator that in the 40s was really an architectural something that went up to the top where the Starlight Room was for dinner and dancing and wedding receptions and a glamorous hotel with a beautiful lobby and chandeliers and a big aqua swimming pool and umbrellas and pool furniture and people and all fashion and just a beautiful place. I thought, oh, I get to go there. Oh, this is really going to be fun. So 6:30 in the morning Thursday, the next Thursday, I was there. But there was really something wrong with this picture, because when I got there was a chain link fence around the El Cortez, and grass was growing up through it, and all the pretty trees, palm trees and the oleanders, everything, they're all dead and brown and crunchy, and dirt and broken windows and cracks in the wall. And I thought, I must have gotten, I just must be wrong. I don't understand this, And then I saw her waving up on the sidewalk ahead of me, so I knew, well, there she is. So I got caught up to her, and she said, it's just time, so come on in. So she pulled back the chain link fence, and we crawled through and went through the lobby that had been so beautiful, no chandeliers in there anymore, and carpet that was all rolled up and crunchy with leaves and broken glass and furniture and peeling wallpaper, and then past the pool that had been so pretty with just now a black puddle in the deep end full of twisted furniture, pool furniture, and then where the poolside rooms had been, there were no more sliding glass doors or drapes, but they just looked like caves with bedrolls in them. And then she said, oh, here we are. And she opened a door and she said, here's my men's group. And they were all people who lived at the hotel and worked on the streets. And I said, oh God, thank you so much for answering my prayer. What are we doing with this now? So I realized I had on my little suit and had my notes from Sunday morning, and I thought, I can't do this. I can't tell these people what I was going to say to everybody on Sunday morning, that this won't help anybody here. I need to know my audience. So I pulled up a chair and I sat down and I said, well, I want to share some ideas with you, but tell me who you are, because I really do not know. And I really did not know. And it was at this point where my cold, hard, critical heart just melted. Because they had stories, and they were real people. And they were on a path, I believe, they were on a path that in this lifetime they were working things out that could only be worked out on that path. And so I learned that many of them were veterans, and many of them had come from really sad circumstances growing up, and that they had seen and experienced such horrific things of war that they could just not return to normal. And they were given by our government money for shelter and medication. But because of how disoriented and confused and undisciplined and scattered they were in their mental capacity, they couldn't remember to take the medication or pay the rent or keep up with the money. And so this was just how it had to be for them. And there were places they could go called shelters where they could have food and clothing, and that was of help to them. So when I understood their story, I could readjust what I was telling myself about them and what my awareness was. And then as I did that, I detoxed that part of my consciousness, because I had true information that replaced the stuff I was making up because I didn't know better. So I had the lack of understanding. And when I understood the lack of understanding, then things changed. So that when I saw them, instead of going through and playing the recording, I could see something different going on, and I could give them a blessing. I think we can do this. We bless each other when we sneeze. Why not see somebody on television or in the real world or in a magazine article and send them a blessing? I think God takes the blessing and wraps it around them, and no telling how good that is for them and how good it is for us to give the blessing. And then I found that I could run, and I love to run. I'm a competitive runner. I run. The only reason one of the reasons I'm here today is because there isn't a race, but I do a lot of races and a lot of running, and I have a wonderful collection of medals and T-shirts. And then after you run 13.2 miles and you're just exhausted, and your skin is crinkly because of the sweat that's come through and the salt and all that, they give you a banana. You've done all that. But I have found that something I can do that blesses me and my body, but also blesses others, is to find races especially that benefit the shelters. And I do not feel like it's the right thing to do to hand money to these kinds of individuals, but I can have clothing and food and enter the races and pay the registration fee, and that goes towards the centers and the shelters. So that's something I can do, and I do it. So, and then it benefits me with health and longevity and exercise and all that stuff that you need. And so, but that having what I had an opinion that did not serve me, and I asked God. I knew it wasn't right, and I said, God, would you help me fix this? And right to me, God delivered in just the way it would just be perfect for me, exactly who and what I needed to know, so that I could take that information and rearrange my consciousness and claim power instead of hurting myself by doing the wrong thing. Okay, so understanding that, then let's look at, there's a story that I think illustrates this, not personalizing and being compassionate. There was a sweetest lady that came to church, and she was elderly, and she had all her faculties except the gift of hearing, so she couldn't hear as well. So she spoke louder than usual because she couldn't hear herself or anybody else. So, and because she was old and deliberate, she looked cranky, but she wasn't. She's as sweet as she could be. And her daughter loved her dearly and took her to do her own errands, but she didn't drive, so her daughter drove. So her daughter took her to the post office for Christmas stamps. And she went up to the counter. She's a little bitty thing, so she's up at the counter. And the postal person came who did not personalize things and said, may I help you? And she said, I want Christmas stamps. And the person said, okay. She said, I have snowmen and I have Madonna. And she said, Madonna? I wouldn't put that hussy's picture on my Christmas cards for anything. Didn't personalize, didn't get upset, didn't, it's Christmas, lady, there's a lot of people behind you, and I don't need this. And no, she said, it's not Madonna, it's the Madonna, Jesus' mom. Oh, I like her. I want some of those. So instead of having the reaction, and then that made her day more pleasant because she didn't upset herself. So she was practicing compassion. Okay, so then Jesus talked about compassion, and in Luke, I think it's the 10th chapter, the 30 to the 37th verses. He said, Father, well, his greatest statement of compassion that's not in this story was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that would be a good thing for you to say when something's going wrong, and it doesn't look like it's right to you. Then say, God, Father, forgive them, for they probably just don't know what they're doing. And forgive me, because I probably don't know what I'm doing, but help me fill in my gaps so I do know. So Jesus told this story. And the story was, he said, well, there was this very rich man. And you could just tell he was rich by looking at him. And he was going to Jericho. And he was on the road to Jericho. And thieves, he fell among thieves. And they beat him up. They robbed him. They stripped him of his clothes. They took his cell phone, his watch, it was a Rolex, his sandals, his robe, everything. They took everything and left him there in his Calvin Kleins, beat up and bruised and hurt and bleeding by the road. And Jesus was telling this story, and his audience, I don't know how many people there, maybe 30 or 40 people, when they heard this, they went, oh, that's so sad, that poor man. And so then Jesus said, well, but then a judge came by, a priest came by, a Levite, and that nice guy coming by, but when the priest saw the man, he just went to the other side of the road and kept on going, and the audience said, oh, that's terrible. And then Jesus said, well, but then a judge came by, here comes the judge. And the judge came by, and he saw the man, and he just kept going. And they said, oh, I just can't believe that. And then Jesus said, yes, but then a man came. He was a salesman, and he had a donkey, and it had blankets and ropes and things on it, because he was going to Jericho, and he was going to load up the donkey with wares. Then he was going to go back home and put blankets on the ground at the farmer's market and sell all this stuff, and then that's how he made his living for his family. So when he saw the man, he had compassion for the man. He was sorry for the man, and he took the man and put him on his donkey. Well, first of all, they dressed in layers, so he took off a layer and put it on the man so he wouldn't be naked, and he put him on his donkey, and he took him into the nearest town and put him in the Motel 6 there, and then gave some money to the clerk, the desk clerk. They're always dressed in black, and he said to the clerk, I'll be back in a few days if this isn't enough money, but there he has water and food by his bed, and I think probably if he rests and gets some nourishment, he'll be okay, and then he'll be on his way. But if he has more expense, I'll take care of it. I just feel like that's the thing I should do. So he went, he loaded up all the wares and things on his donkey, and as he came back a couple of days later, he checked into, now this is the story that Jesus was telling. He said, how's the man? And the desk clerk said he recuperated, he felt really good, he is very thankful for you, and he's on his way. And so then everybody said, oh wow, that's a great story. That shows we should have more compassion, and what a nice guy that was. And Jesus said, now this was Jesus' punchline, he said, oh, you know where he was from? They said, no, where was he from? And Jesus said, well, his country was Samaria, and he was a Samaritan. And all the people that were listening said, no way. That just couldn't be true. Those people, we don't tell blonde jokes. We tell Samaritan jokes. And we never met a Samaritan we like. They're not. Oh, they're all just out. And Jesus said, well, that maybe if you looked closer at the ones that you don't like, that you don't have compassion for, you might see something that would change your thinking. And maybe you see priests and judges in a light that you might take a closer look at them and see what qualities they have that you kind of appreciate, and then transfer or look with suspicion for those kind of qualities in people you don't care for. And so they all went, oh, well, we're going to have to think about this. And then Jesus would think that, yes, you must understand your lack of understanding, see what you're missing. Okay, so then I like to embellish things. And so I think that what happened was when, now this is an Arthur ism. And so I think what happened was Jesus, the Samaritan man, went back to the motel, and the desk clerk said, "Oh, he's fine, he went on his way." But you don't know who that was, do you? You don't know who you helped, because he was naked and you couldn't just to tell, you know. But he